Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at something a bit special. It's a brand new shifter from BDH Racing Hardware, the H1 SQ. Now about 18 months ago I tried their first shifter, the Bazooka, and I loved it that much that I actually bought one, and that was a H pattern shifter. Now the H1 SQ is a H pattern and a sequential. Now it's quite difficult taking a look at a shifter and trying to explain what it's like to you guys, because a shifter does what a shifter does. So this video probably won't be that long. Essentially, it's just a game controller with 10 buttons. In H pattern mode, you got 7 forward gears, 1 reverse, and in sequential, you got up and down. Now, BDH Racing Hardware was founded by Dave Hunter. Now, Dave is a sim racer, but by trade, he's an engineer. And during lockdown, him and his friends were sim racing, and one of them said to him, "Why don't you make a shifter?" So he did. And that was the original Bazooka. Now, what the shifter does is essentially the same as what any shifter does that you buy. For example, I've got a Fanatec shifter here. This has got 7 forward gears and a switch on the side, and you can put it into sequential mode. Pretty much the same as what this BDH shifter does. But let me tell you, they are completely different. I'll just pop this back over there, out of the way. Now the shifter is plug and play, 1 USB cable into Windows, and you can see it in your USB controllers. So BDH have got their own custom electronics and board inside the shifter. And as you can see, it's just registered in Windows as a game controller. So first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth, fifth, sixth, and across for 7th and 8th. But you'd use one of those for reverse. I use that one. Put it back into neutral, and if we're going to sequential mode, and you just turn this collar on the side, and now we're in sequential. Now you can see number 9 and number 10 light up. Simple as that. Turn the collar again, and we're back into H pattern mode. Dead easy. And you can adjust the tension of the gears with this tensioner on the top. So you turn it clockwise and that increases the tension, turn it anti-clockwise, and obviously that makes the shifting really loose. So you can wind it out, just 2 fingers, dead easy to shift. But if we wind it in, it's a bit more difficult to shift. Now I'll try and give you a listen to the Fanatec shifter. Are we in? We'll put it in H pattern mode. I'll have to try and hold it on here. And I've got a microphone here. I'll just put that there. So I'll give you a little listen. So first gear, I'll just go through the gears. I don't even know if that's picking it up. And we'll go into sequential. So I'll put that back over there, and I'll move this microphone just out of the way, and we'll do the same with the BDH shifter. So and then we'll go into sequential. So it's a real mechanical piece of kit. It actually feels like a real shifter. I mentioned that when I tested the Bazooka. It feels like the shifter's connected to a gear linkage, changing the gears. That's what it feels like. And it shouldn't feel like that. It's not a real gearbox, but it actually feels like a proper gearbox. Now, I've been using the Fanatec shifter for a while because unfortunately I had to sell my BDH shifter, the Bazooka, but thankfully BDH bought it back. Long story, I owned a Ford Mustang and I got a huge repair bill. Obviously, the luxuries have got to go. And the Fanatec shifter was doing all right. But if you've watched some of my previous videos when using the Fanatec shifter, the gear selection wasn't great. I'd be going first, second, and instead of going to third, I'd be back into first, or I'd be into fifth. I've never had that problem once when using this shifter. The gear selections are so accurate. The only time I've had a misshift is when I've just not put the clutch in hard enough. Now, I had the pleasure of visiting BDH Racing Hardware's facility in the UK, and they're all assembled by hand in the UK. It's not a massive team. There's no big production line. It's 2 or 3 blokes at the facility assembling and testing every single shifter. And that's why these shifters are so good. They're not chucking hundreds and thousands out the door. This is a small company in the UK, very passionate about what they do and very passionate about making sure that the product that we get is perfect. Now, I said at the beginning that this would be a difficult video to make because a shifter does what a shifter does. And if you're looking at these shifters, then you probably want to get out of sim racing what I get out of sim racing. And that's feeling that in the moment you're driving a real car. I've never had that when I've used a Thrustmaster shifter or that Fanatec shifter. But when I use this, it does feel like I'm changing gear in a real car. And it all just adds to the level of immersion. Now, we've got to be realistic. These don't come cheap. They're much more expensive than the likes of the Fanatec shifter or a shifter from Simagic or Logitech or Thrustmaster. But this wheelbase here from Acertech, that's not cheap either. And essentially it does the same as what a Logitech G29 does. Good sim racing equipment doesn't come cheap. So in the UK, this shifter would set you back £895 plus VAT. For comparison, the Fanatec shifter would cost you €260 plus taxes and shipping. So by the time you paid that, you're probably over €300. So this is over 3 times more expensive. Is it worth it? Well, if you're somebody that just uses a H-pattern shifter infrequently and you just use the H-pattern shifter to change gears and you don't want to feel like you're in the car in that moment, probably not. But if you're the type of sim racer that really wants to feel like you're driving a car, absolutely. So when I look at products, I normally go over 4 categories. Firstly, how does it look? Secondly, what's the build quality like? Thirdly, how does it perform? And lastly, is it value for money? So firstly, looks. I think it looks incredible, but I really like the look of the Bazooka. This is a big shifter, and you're going to need a sturdy aluminium profile rig to mount it to, because when you're winding that resistance, you do have to really push the shifter to shift gear. It's not a toy. So I think it looks good. Industrial. I've said before on other videos, I really like that industrial look. Secondly, onto build quality, this has been absolutely faultless. I've not had one missed shift, and it switches from H pattern to sequential super easy. So now we're in H pattern mode. A quick turn of the collar and we're now in sequential. It really is that simple. It was recognized in Windows straight away, didn't have to mess around with anything. Plug and play, happy days. Performance-wise, it performed incredibly well, both in sequential and H pattern. Never missed a shift. No issues going from H pattern to sequential and vice versa. Everything worked as it should. And on to value for money. Of course, that's subjective. Depends how deep your pockets are. But I bought the original Bazooka because of how it made me feel when I was driving. And this is exactly the same, but with the added benefit of having that extra sequential mode that the original Bazooka didn't have. So yes, on the face of it, it does exactly the same as what the Fanatec shifter does. And that Fanatec shifter is a third of the price of this. But this wheelbase does exactly the same as what a G29 does. And the G29 is probably a third of the price of this. A set of expensive pedals could set you back £1,000, 1,500 quid. Well, you can buy a set of pedals for a couple of £100. Yes, you can buy cheap gear, but it's going to feel like cheap gear. It's all relative. Now, I'm not affiliated in any way, shape or form with BDH Racing Hardware. There's no kickbacks. There's no affiliate links. If you buy one of these, you're going to absolutely love it. If you don't buy one of these, then it's no skin off my nose. But if you're in the market for H pattern / sequential shifter, I would highly, highly recommend this. Would I buy one? Absolutely 100%. So I want to say a massive thank you to BDH Racing Hardware for letting me have this to test and use. So BDH are going to be at the Sim Racing Expo in October. So if you're on the fence, that would be an ideal time to go and check them out. But I'll leave a link down below to the BDH Race Sim Hardware website. Go and check it out. But as always, thanks for watching. Have a great week. See you later. Cheers.